the decision is in front of my face. Like, I have to pay for a pizza night for everybody in this particular pizzeria, which is not very cheap. Hi there, and thank you for submitting your task 2 essay for assessment at IELTS Juice. Let's look at the rubric first. The rubric says, nowadays, people use bicycles less as a form of transport. So this is the topic. We're focusing on a modern phenomenon. It's something that is happening right now. So it's relatively modern. And it says people use bicycles, okay, but not as much as they should for transportation. There's no difference between transport and transportation. It's just difference between American English and British English. So what we have is that people use bicycles, but they don't use it for transportation. They look at it as a form of exercise. Now, we have a two-part question. In the IELTS community, it is called a two-part question. Basically, it means you will be presented with two questions. And I want you to pay attention that these questions come in a separate line, meaning each question deserves your attention. Again, meaning each question deserves a separate paragraph. So you need to devote a body paragraph to each of these questions. The first question says, why is this the case? Okay, why is this the case? It doesn't say, like, what are the reasons? You're going to say reason or reasons. You can come up with only one reason for this phenomenon, or you might come up with two or even three. But even one will satisfy the answer. What can we do to encourage people to use bicycles more? That would again mean a suggestion, and one would be enough. Two is again enough. Three is again enough. There are no limitations here. I can basically say one reason for this one in one paragraph, and in another paragraph, I just say one solution, and the solution is how to encourage people to actually use bicycles more for as a form of transport. So that would be the second one, and that's it. So this is how we can address this particular rubric. Let's look at yours, and I can give you more details as we go. In recent years, all right, this is not the subject of a sentence. And when a sentence starts with not the subject, usually, because it depends on the type of the sentence that we're talking about. If it's complex, no. And I don't want to complicate things right now. I don't want to teach grammar. We say the adverb or the adverbial clause or phrase, and then we put a comma at the end of it. Then the subject starts the rest of the sentence. And in this case, people is the word for us as a subject. People are less likely to use bicycles to move around the city than in the past. Preferring, this is a very good word. This one is a gapping comma, meaning we are using a comma here because we omitted a couple of words here. Here, the actual structure was in the past, who preferred other forms of transport instead. So I like this actually. Such as private cars. I'm not a fan of giving examples in the introduction. I am not a fan because it's an introduction. But sometimes you want to use examples as a form of saying what you have in mind. Again, there are other ways. You can say namely, and you can limit, and you can, for example, say a list. like private cars, underground, and trains come to mind. Things like that, instead of just saying, for example, such as, but just something, you should consider for your future writing responses, something to keep in your mind. Uh, Underground or trains. All right. Trains, yeah, we're talking about transport. It can be like inter inter-country transport. You go from one city to another city, you use trains. Yeah, fair, good word. I think this happens because today's generations, I'm thinking about this plural form. uh, I think you're talking about maybe different generations of the modern time in different locations, probably. I'm gonna I'm gonna take a guess like that. Seek, seek doesn't have a preposition. That's search for or look for. Those words have prepositions. Seek the fastest solution to reach their destination. I need to remove this comma because this continues, since they are often in a rush. Hence, all right, here is the big sentence. This is the most important sentence of your entire essay. The best solution to encourage people to ride their bikes more should be to raise awareness. I don't need this. To raise awareness about the advantages of cycling. I like your approach. People don't use it, uh, because we have other forms of transportation available. That's the reason. And to encourage people, to use bicycles more, we need to raise awareness. And there are advantages. Let's count them. Let's inform the public that that these advantages are out there, and they can take advantage of those advantages. In my opinion, so basically this paragraph is the first one, and this paragraph's job is to answer and address the first question here. So we're going to answer this one. Why is this the case? In my opinion, bicycles are generally considered as something to use in leisure time rather than a form of transport. Okay? However, nowadays people have little time to rest or, for example, to peacefully cycle in the park. As a consequence, they avoid using bikes to move around. They would rather use bikes, plural, them, occasionally during their free time in order to relax. So this is the reason why not many people use bicycles these days, because it's a form of leisure. People want to cycle in a park and then move around and relax. So this is the reason why people don't use bicycles as a as means of transportation. So as a means of transportation, this is not used. I understand that. This is a good paragraph, but let me tell you that the tone is not very formal. It's more like somebody's talking to me. It's a more spoken style. Why do you think I say that? Every sentence starts with a discourse marker. And it sounds like somebody is preparing to take the speaking test. It's not bad. I'm just saying this is not a very formal tone for this formal response. It's task two, and task twos are all formal responses. Moreover, there is another reason. Today's workers are often in a hurry, particularly in big cities. And yeah, there's a typo catching, I guess, which should be reaching. And this is fine. It's a typo. Reaching a place by bicycle is not so fast. Therefore, I like this punctuation mark, which is correct. People prefer relying on more rapid ways to arrive at a destination, like cars, buses, or trains. We only have two sentences, like this one, which is connected to this one. Technically speaking, this paragraph has only one compound sentence. And that is not a good way to write a paragraph for task twos in essays. One sentence paragraphs are not a good strategy. So instead, I would have suggested something like maybe you finish here, and instead of saying like cars and this, you can transform this part into a complete sentence and give examples. You can choose one of them and make them an example. For instance, cars are allowed to go up to 80 kilometers an hour in a city, and even for highways, they can go up to 120 kilometers per hour on highways, but bicycles cannot go any more than 20 kilometers an hour, 30 kilometers an hour. If you're a pro, that sentence would deliver an example and comparison and would help you create a much better paragraph. So that would be a paragraph with two, and I mean, basically your paragraphs should be 3 sentences and more, especially body paragraphs. That would give you a couple of sentences more to fully convey the message. Remember, it's always better. It is really, really much better to say fewer items, but with better development. I would have appreciated a lot more if you had this idea to develop this one idea, one reason further and deeper than just saying 2 reasons for this, and the development is like, yeah, one compound sentence as formed as a paragraph. It's not enough. Seriously, it's not enough. As far as I'm concerned, again, we're getting into this mechanical tone of always starting with a discourse marker. Some measures can be taken to change this habit. Okay. Good opening. This is a good topic sentence. This is not a good discourse marker. Thus means as a result. Well, how would you react to me if I say, all right, the weekend is only a couple of days ahead, and let's plan for something fun together. And you are super excited. You say, oh, okay, let's see. You're thinking, and I just immediately, right after that, say, let's go to a pizza night, 7 p.m., this pizzeria, and you will pay on you. All of a sudden, you feel like we just opened the topic, and then without me analyzing and going through the process, suddenly, bam, the decision is in front of my face. Like I have to pay for a pizza night for everybody in this particular pizzeria, which is not very cheap. And then you're like, what just happened? We opened the subject and then we closed it immediately after that. I feel like it right now. We opened this, yeah, like, I mean, this part of IELTS that we are now going to exercise ways to encourage people to use bicycles, right? The moment we opened it, we immediately said, all right, as a result, We need to do this. And I'm like, oh, so where is the analysis? How did we get to this? This is not a good discourse marketer. I believe it is important to make people aware of the pros in using bikes, so as to encourage them to take up cycling. Interesting indeed. Okay, I like the word pros. This is not thus. I mean, this is not a good discourse marketer here. You could have continued by saying, I believe. And as you can see, why are we so much concerned about your opinion? We know you're talking about your opinion, so why do we keep repeating? We say, I believe, I think, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, it's very repetitive, and again, very spoken like. It's not appropriate language for writing. You might say, what else to replace? You don't have to replace. You should delete this. Once we say this is my opinion, then the whole writing is about analysis and structure. We don't need to keep listening to words like I am of the opinion that I believe this. My thoughts are with this camp. We don't want that this or those type of discourse markers. First and foremost, this would have been a very good one here. Because when you say first and foremost, I expect that there is first and okay, there are other items. So, all right, this is first. And I expect other items that will come or will appear afterwards. But I can only see here one paragraph. They are a more sustainable way to move around in the city. What's they? What does they refer to? This is the beginning of a paragraph. It's a new subject. Why do we have a word here that we don't know? It's not defined for us. I know you were talking about these measures, and these measures, you know, and using bikes. The pros of using bikes is the one you have in mind, but again, this had to join the previous paragraph. Of course is a very spoken structure. Riding a bike can be more exhausting than simply sitting on the train. However, I need a comma after however. They avoid gas emissions. I think they means bikes. It's very hard to follow. It's getting harder to find the reference for these words, which are lethal. Now, this refers to emissions, these gas emissions, which are lethal, not bikes, for the environment and air pollution. I understand, but I have difficulty understanding. It's not smooth. In addition, it's important to highlight the fact that cycling to work could be an occasion for employees to do physical outdoor activity. It's a very good sentence, as well as to relax a little before and after a hard day working. A hard day working is rather weird. Usually a hard day at work. The common term is that, but okay, I can relate to it. Yeah, not very common. Plus, we have another paragraph that is only one sentence. Yes, there is a space before, after. It looks like a paragraph, but it's not. To conclude, today cycling is no longer, this is weird. Maybe cycling today is no longer a common habit due to the lack of free time. Nevertheless, people should take up this activity in order to reduce pollution and stretch their muscles after work days. 336 words. The conclusion is okay. This, nevertheless, is not 100% used accurately. These two elements are not in contrast with each other. That's one of the common mistakes among many IELTS candidates. Let's look at the band descriptors. All right. So the fascinating part is grammar. The contracted, the reduced relative clause, the contracted forms, shows that you have very good knowledge over grammar. And I did pick up many vocabulary mistakes. Most of them were like, okay, there are some less common lexical items, but there is awareness, not 100%. So it says with some awareness. But we, boy, oh boy, did we have word choice errors, one spelling error, and some word formation errors. They did not impede your communication with me, but they were, effective enough that by themselves, you just get 6 in lexical resource. The areas where we really need to improve are 1, paragraphing, because it's not always used logically. We have paragraphing, but not always logical. Only 1 or 2 paragraphs were logical. The others were just one sentence. When I say the others, I mean maybe 1 or 2 other ones that are left. Referencing is an issue still. And the transition between sentences. So the discourse markers that we used are in some cases faulty and in some cases very mechanical. Like every sentence starts with a discourse marker. In a certain paragraph, I pointed that out. And an overall progression is there. But I don't have the exact reason. For instance, a good one, a 7 in this case, would be to tell me that these reasons are A and B, and the solutions are C and D. And I could follow C is first and then D comes after that. And I can find them in a certain paragraph. By looking at the whole thing, I would be able to see that, all right, this paragraph is devoted to C, this paragraph is devoted to D. I couldn't find that there. And as for task response, one thing I really wanted to see that the conclusion was rather repetitive. We basically mentioned everything we wanted the reader, in this case me, to hear, which is fine, but it's not 7, because in that case 7 means that, all right, you have a meaningful conclusion, you reached a conclusion, and you of course repeat the same things, but you organize them, and your conclusion has an identity by itself that concludes and wraps everything up. We also usually say to write one more sentence in the conclusion and acknowledge that this is a debate, it's an open-ended debate. You can predict something, you can suggest something very generic, and avoid at all costs adding new information to your conclusion. No new information in the conclusion, please. As for ideas, we have relevant main ideas, but it's not adequately developed. And I pointed that out. The sentence structures could be in a way that support the main claim. We only made the main claim in 1 or 2 instances. We made the claim and that was it. And it's never enough. We cannot just say something and say that this is it. This is one sentence. Everything is inside it. That's the full package. At IELTS, you need to make a claim and then you need to start supporting and you need to explain what it is. You need to define the parameters of it and also give examples. All in all, this is 6. Can it get better? Absolutely. We improved this writing to 7 and the link is given here. You can click and see how we improved it. We can easily get it to 7. It's a very good example to look through. It's not perfect, but it will help you get an understanding how we can improve this writing into a higher level. On that note, I hope I'll be assessing more responses from you. Take care.